Welcome back. My name is Nick, and I have Kyle here with me. Pecos with the Zero on Instagram. He's a super talented artist. Go check him out.
So we're going to be talking about the Kwisatz Haderach today, and basically just an exploration of the concept and the history of it in within the Dune universe. So buckle up, everyone.
Just so you know, we've been covering Dune here from the Bene Gesserit to Spice to Spacing Guild, you name it, we've been covering here. So subscribe to get more Dune
Long
content.
list.
And also, we have the bestnerdyshirts.com. Every comment is entered to win at the end of the month to win a shirt from the bestnerdyshirts.com. So all comments are entered to win. We have a lot of cool stuff there. We have a cool Dune shirt. We have a lot of other cool stuff. So let's just jump into it.
Let's do it. Okay. So I already went through this with Nick. So how we break down the word: Kwisatz, first word. Now the second, had ak. Kwisatz Haderach. So, okay. Like I said, this is going to be an exploration of the concept of the Kwisatz Haderach and a look at its significance during the Dune movie in the first book. Right. So, Kwisatz Haderach was a term used primarily by the Bene Gesserit. It was an old Chicopsa term. Now, Chicopsa is a ancient language that was from like a derivative of the Fremen, right? Back when they were still wandering before they settled Arrakis. And it translated literally as shortening of the way. And we'll get into why it's called that in a moment, right? So a little bit of history. So the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mahayim tells Paul when she first meets him that the spice melange allowed the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers to unlock genetic memory. So essentially access to a cumulative ancestral memory, right? So basically when you kind of go into that state, you can actually channel certain voices from people from the past. That's the genetic memory they're talking about.
Is it kind of like, I hate to refer to it this way, but in Avatar The Last Airbender, he had access to previous avatars.
Kind of like
And he
that,
was
yeah.
able to
Except
like
it's
communicate and talk to them and stuff like that.
yes, except it's all the cumulative Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers.
Okay.
And I believe like other significant females and we'll get into the specifics of that here.
Nice.
So and as I just sort of hinted at, however, this was only limited to their female ancestors. So the masculine side of their ancestor of the Bene Gesserit ancestry is something that they feared and thus was never explored deeply. And so a Kwisatz Haderach would be a male Bene Gesserit who has access to the memories of both his male and female ancestors, and ultimately bridge space and time with prescient with his prescient ability.
Wow.
So, the Bene Gesserit desired access to this knowledge and this power, right? So this is the driving force behind their long-running breeding program to produce such a being, right? So he would be Bene Gesserit. He would be a Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother, a Mentat, and a Guild Navigator all in one.
Wow.
Super powerful, right? And the original plan was to breed the daughter of Duke Leto Atreides to a Harkonnen male, which would then produce the Kwisatz Haderach. And so this was just one by the time we start Dune, the Kwisatz Haderach is technically just one generation away, right? But this was the culmination of more than 10,000 years of careful, meticulous breeding by the Bene Gesserit, right? So it would have seen the end of the centuries-old feud between the House Atreides and House Harkonnen, right? And it would have placed a prescient Bene Gesserit controlled male on the Golden Lion throne, right? So they have a puppet to do their bidding, essentially. But because of Lady Jessica's love for Duke Leto, she disobeyed the Bene Gesserit directive and gave birth to a son, because we know Bene Gesserit can control what the sex of the baby will be, right?
Which we learned in our breakdown video.
Yes, exactly. And she gave birth to a son instead of a daughter, which, as we know, is Paul, right? So it seems fairly certain from like early on in Paul's life that he will in fact be the Kwisatz Haderach, right? So like since he shows an ability to see into the future from a young age,
Hmm.
so I mean it's when uh, Reverend Gaius Helen Mahayam calls Paul in, and she's like, "Do you dream just as just as you do things happen just as you dream them?" And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Yes," right? Um, and so, and of course, it was when he was 15 that she asked him this, and basically that's why and so she was ultimately sent there to test Paul's prescient abilities and train him in the Bene Gesserit ways, right?
Mm.
Um, but in an ironic twist of fate, I would say it was the very acts of the Reverend of the Sisterhood that would turn Paul against them, right?
Mm.
And thus out of their control in the end, right?
Yes.
So the incident with the Gom Jabbar,
Mm-hmm.
their silent complicity in his father's death,
Mm-hmm.
all proved to instill like a significant animosity in Paul against the Bene Gesserit,
Mm.
right? Um, so basically so like a little bit behind the scenes of the concept of the Kwisatz Haderach. So it's likely that Frank Herbert borrowed the term from the Kabbalah,
Mm.
which is a compilation of Jewish mysticism, which is the core of which is entitled the Zohar, or also known as the Book of Splendor. I myself have read the Zohar
Mm.
because I love mystical studies, and it's quite a read. Quite a read. A lot of interesting concepts there, and it is like one page of text directly from the Zohar. The other part of the page is just cliff notes or just notes from the author saying this is
Wow.
what this concept means in Judah, and it's like it's crazy. But getting off track here. So the term itself is Hebrew, and it comes from Kwisatz Haderach, literally the leap of the way.
Oh,
So, in which an initiate may travel a certain distance instantaneously. So they'd be able to appear to be in two or more places at once, right?
dang.
Um, and so, like, kind of like little bit of thoughts on this for me, like I was kind of reflecting a lot of mystical teachings and rituals, and like many of them acknowledge that in order to attain true power or enlightenment or great wisdom, the practitioner must integrate both the masculine and the feminine,
Mm.
right? And so the Bene Gesserit were doomed. I feel the Bene Gesserit were doomed to fail since they refused to access the masculine side of their ancestral memory. It scared them, right? And so it was always available to them, but they never tapped into it like the feminine.
Mm.
So in not doing so, the Reverend Mothers never fully understood the male psyche and its role throughout the tides of history, right? So
Mm.
if you want to make an ultimate being, you should probably understand the entirety of how they operate, not just half.
Mm.
Right? So that's kind of like my 2 cents on it, right?
Makes sense
And
though, right?
and that's yeah,
It's that yin and yang kind of balance.
yeah. And so basically that's it for the Kwisatz Haderach. I mean, the thing is though, now I mentioned that the and Nick, this is where you can cut it if you want. So yeah, and that's about it for the Kwisatz Haderach. I do have one little, because I mentioned it came back to bite them in the end,
Yes.
right? Dean of Dune, and I kind of have a half-hearted telling of basically what happens. So this happens. This happens in this is probably going to happen in part two. We're going to see a lot of this in part two in the movie, but this happens by the end of the first book of Dune. So okay,
So
so
spoilers.
yeah, so this is spoiler alert, kind of right. So Paul kills Fade Routha. Um, uh,
Sting?
not gonna say who that is.
Sting,
Um,
right?
yeah, sure, Sting. Sends the Emperor to his own prison planet and sits his keister on the golden lion throne. Now, okay,
Mm.
his cheeks haven't even warmed the seat before he starts calling some pretty wild shots. So first, he's like, Princess Irulan, you're my wife now, but
Dang.
I'm not gonna like have sex with you or love you or anything. I've got my sweet desert honey Cheney for that. No, you are gonna write books about how cool I am. And then, okay, next, Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, your weird ancient breeding program. I'm in charge of it now. And basically, they lose their ability to develop another Kwisatz Haderach by the very being they sought to essentially create.
Mm.
Right. So yeah.
So I had a question too. Is it possible to have two at the same time or only one?
That's a great question. I was reading up on it. There was so
If
the
it's not able to be answered, it's fine. I don't need
well,
an answer.
it's kind. I mean, I read enough to
Okay.
kind of know.
Theorize.
I know that the Tleilaxu, through their own genetic breeding programs, and through like their technology, right, we're trying to bring about a Kwisatz Haderach through their technology.
Mm.
Now,
By the way, we did a breakdown video on them too.
yeah. Now the thing is that it's believed. So there's a character in the second books called Scytale,
Mm.
who essentially kind of understands Paul as being the Kwisatz Haderach, kind of the burden he has with his prescient ability, because he's essentially locked into his fate, since he can see all probable futures. And Scytale sort of alludes to that. Well, the Tleilaxu have created a Kwisatz Haderach, but he hints that it committed suicide because of the prescient ability. It drove it mad, basically. And so, but eventually, way down the line, this is super spoiler alert, there is a true final Kwisatz Haderach in the Gola of Duncan, Idaho.
Really?
In the sixth book, yes, he is essentially the true Kwisatz Haderach is a merger of thinking machine and human into one.
Another perfect balance.
Yes, perfect balance. Yes.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Kyle, for bringing the lore, hammering it down on us. Just so you know, we could do a deeper dive on this too. We only wanted to go so far with spoilers when it comes to
There's so much other
Kwisatz
Haderach madness.
So be on the lookout for part 2. Subscribe to get that update if you want more of this awesome content from Dune that Kyle brings to this channel. We've been working on a lot of cool Dune projects in the background, just doing more breakdowns and deep dives, which are going to be coming out. My bad. I've been busy with other things. Tears of the Kingdom, to be precise.
Cut him a break, everyone. Come on.
A little bit behind, getting back on rhythm. So hit that subscribe button. Comment down below in this video so you have a chance to win a shirt from thebestnerdyshirts.com. Go there, check it out. We also have a really cool Dune poster too that Kyle designed with the blue eyes and the Arrakis planet with the spice.
could maybe we put it up on here. I don't know.
I could put it up, but I think my description's better.
It's more flavorful.
Just go. Just gonna hide the rest of my face.
Eye.
There you go. Anyway, subscribe, guys, and join us for live streams here too. Subscribe so you get updates when we go live, where we'll be here to answer questions and comments live from you guys. It's so much fun going live to just interact with you guys. And subscribe. We'll see. Oh, go to Instagram, Peckers with a 0. Follow Kyle. He's a super talented artist. He has his own cool sci-fi project he's working on there. So if you're into sci-fi stuff, you like Dune a lot, you'll probably really like his content. Go there, subscribe, tell him you came from AsArt, and we'll see you on the next AsArt. So when you talk about the breeding program, I always think of Pokemon and how you would breed the perfect stats of a Pokemon. Is that very similar?
Sure.